Hi everyone, and welcome to another live stream of From a Woman to a Leader. And very excited to have here today with me Nora Bouchard. Hi Nora.
Hi, Lemar. How are you?
I'm pretty good, no
Good.
complaints. And Nora and I are fellow coaches, but unlike Nora, you have like years of coaching experience, and I think you mentioned like over 10,000 hours.
Yes, I've been doing this a long time. I saw my first coaching demonstration back in the mid 90s. And it was two master coaches doing their thing. And it just blew my mind. And I thought, that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that. And so I didn't hold back. I jumped right in. And so I've been doing it a long time and enjoying practically every single one of my clients, even the tough ones, because they're the ones who keep me on my toes and keep me questioning and being curious. So I really love doing the work.
I'm with you. It's a great work. Hopefully, I will be able to reach your
Oh,
experience.
sure. No problem.
And for those of us listening to us, so Nora specializes in guiding leaders to envision and achieve their goals through tailored coaching. And basically, you have wrote a book called Hidden Metrics, which we're going to talk about some of it. The unspoken rules every new leader needs to know.
Yes, yes.
What ignited you to write this book, Nora?
Well, it's kind of I was just writing about this recently too. Was this idea that and I came up with this idea. I didn't have a name for it. Um, Years ago, I mean, decades ago, honestly, before I was even a coach, that leaders need to come up with these secret goals sometimes and not tell anybody about them and just do them anyway. Do them because they're important to you. And the first one came to me when I was what I thought was a hotshot leader many years ago, and I was leading a team of training designers and developers and for a large multinational organization, and my clients loved me and my boss loved me, so I thought it was great, but I was actually a really toxic leader. And when that feedback finally landed, when I finally got it that what I've been doing is wrong, that I was satisfying everybody else's needs at the expense of the people that worked for me, um, it kind of took my breath away, and I had to really sit with it. And I decided that I was going to change how I did my work. And I'm grateful that I did it when I was younger, because it's really hard to do. And if I had been doing it for decades, that would make things really difficult. But I was a younger leader, and I just thought, okay, I'm going to work on this. I'm not going to tell anybody about it. I will just see how far I can get. And I changed how I interacted with people. And what it came down to was just recognizing that I didn't need to be afraid, that I was surrounded by amazing people, and I had already established my credentials with my clients and my boss. So, what was I afraid of, really? And so I started working on steps that I needed to take to get better. So I did that, and then I kind of put it away and I didn't think about it until I started coaching again. Or not again, but I started coaching. And that's when I thought, well, people are like me. Maybe they're not toxic like I was, but everybody has a goal that they want to create, that they want to achieve, that maybe is separate from those set by the organization. And let's just work on those quietly, under the radar. and make them happen so that the leader is satisfied, the leader is fulfilled, um, and great things happen for their teams. That was a long answer, but yeah.
Definitely. So first of all, I mean, I very much relate to what you say about the goals of the organization versus the goals of the leader.
Yeah. Because
And
we get caught up in that, don't we?
yes, we do. First of all, I mean, when I get clients, not always, because not all my clients come with the goals from their organization. Some of them just reach out to me directly. But yeah, a lot of times I see the goals, and I'm not saying I'm ignoring them,
Right.
but I kind of put that in context in the background, but I'm always looking at the person that I'm coaching.
Exactly. Exactly. And, I do it with almost all of my clients. And, I don't know if you've noticed, there are probably, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5, maybe 6 different reasons why we do that. Sometimes the goal that they want to achieve is so big and audacious that sharing it with other people right away, it's just going to get knocked down and ripped apart, and it's not ready to be born yet. And then I'm sure you've seen this too, where, and especially for women, women often get feedback that they need to be more men like or man like at work. And that really doesn't work for us.
It doesn't. I know that firsthand.
Yeah. So we're not going to tell our bosses, okay, I'll become more man like. No, you're just going to say, okay, thank you for the feedback. And then you are going to work on your own goals to be the best woman leader you can possibly be.
Yeah, I was just coaching a woman leader today. Actually, she has her specific situation was different than I usually face. So she was told that she's tough, that she's very tough,
Okay.
And she needs to be more friendly. And what I see a lot is that your manager a lot of times expect you as a leader to lead like they do.
Exactly.
And
It
if
works
you're
for them.
and it works for them, but it's not going to work for you. And then you have to figure out what's working for you. So let's say you are a new leader. And to be honest, Nora, when I started leading, I had no idea what I was doing. I had absolutely no clue. So let's say you're handing a leadership role that's the first role. What do you do? How do you even know to set your goals? Because a lot of times you have no clue what are your goals other than surviving it and being liked by the people that you manage.
Right. And that being liked piece is really that'll trip you up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So, but to go back to your original question, I think it's um, one of the hard things to do. But what I really encourage clients to do is to just stop and spend some time by yourself. And it doesn't need to be, going on a retreat somewhere. It could be an hour on a weekend where you just sit quietly with a cup of coffee or tea and you think about what you want to be known for. What kind of leader do you want to be? It doesn't really take that long to figure it out. And you
Yeah.
think about all the leaders that you've worked with in your life, the coaches, the teachers, your parents, if you're lucky enough to have had really good parents, or grandparents, the people you've admired in books or on television or in film. Those kinds of characters exemplify the values that you want to be living. And just spending time doing that first before even paying attention to those assigned goals from your boss or the organization is what is going to ground your leadership. It's what's going to make you predictable, thoughtful, and successful long term. But I don't know about you, and as you coach your leaders, do you find that people have already thought through their leadership?
Usually not. But what I notice, Nora, usually very quickly while working with my clients, I realize what is important to them. And what I want to say to our listeners today, there are actually easy ways to find it out. So there are several kind of, things that I ask. So one is role models. Like I had a role model when I was even a young, like at the beginning of my career. I was an engineer. I had a manager that I really admired. And I remember back then I couldn't even imagine myself getting to be a manager. It looked so far away. I was just at the beginning of my career. But I thought to myself, this is what I want to become. I really appreciated him. So if you have a role model, it's very easy step to kind of try to investigate what is it about that role model that you have that you appreciate so much.
Yeah. And that is a simple question. Unfortunately, a lot of people have anti-role models.
Yeah.
These are the people I don't want to become. I don't want to do this. So what I always encourage those people to do is to think, okay, you don't want that. So what do you want instead? Because oftentimes we just get hung up in what we don't want. And by focusing on what we don't want, we actually make that happen. So we need to understand what it means. Let's say I don't want to be an impatient leader. Okay, that means that you want to be patient.
Yeah.
Who are you going to be patient with? Let's explore that. And that is a value.
Absolutely. I think the opposite, right? I don't want to become like that is also a tool you can use. It's not ideal, but if you cannot think about what you want or how you want to be, but you only think about what you don't want to be, you can ask yourself, what irritates me so much with that leader? What are the things that they do or like their values that I really despise, that really triggers me? And that is usually the opposite, as you said, the opposite from how you want to lead. So if someone is impatient, you probably want to be a patient leader.
Right. So, it's kind of interesting. So I write about in Hidden Metrics, the boss who talked to me about my toxic behavior. And I just adored working for this man. And we became really good friends after we left the company. He went his way, I went mine. And he was just phenomenal. I found out later on that there were people who really did not like working for him. And I was like flabbergasted. It was what? How could you not? And then I realized that the things that I loved about him, that I really admired, other people, it really drove them crazy. It really did trigger them. So even if, let's say, you want to be a patient leader, that's great. And recognize that sometimes you may have people you're going to lead who are going to be about go, 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 go. Let's move. Let's go forward. They've got that energy. They want to move quickly. So you're going to have to recognize that sometimes your leadership value may not align with those people, and you may need to modify it.
I love what you said. I think, and I always say that to my clients, the hardest part in leadership, one of the hardest part, is actually working with people that are not like you. Because when you work with either your manager, your peers, or subordinates that are very much like you, it's easy. Because you're just on autopilot. You're you, they're them. Everything gels well together. It works perfectly. The challenge starts when you actually work with people who are very different. And that's where great leaders come in place, because great leaders are able to adjust as you mentioned, right? You have to adjust yourself to different people and how they work and how they communicate and what they appreciate, both if it's your manager or if it's people you manage.
And a lot of times I see leaders thinking, well, they just have to, my direct reports have to modify their style to fit my own. That's not leadership.
Good luck with
That,
that.
that is bad. No, you have to recognize that these people need something else from you. And it is your job as a leader to lead them too. I mean, don't you see it with like alpha leaders, the ones who do really well, who perform at this really high level in the organization? The organization loves what they deliver, but they can be abusive or toxic to their teams,
Oh
especially
my
to those
God.
people who are
I
not
had
like
someone
them.
exactly like that, and Nora, that he was very much appreciated upwards, hated with by like by every single person that worked with him in his subordinates or peers.
Yeah, yeah. And that's not leadership. That's not what it means. That's being a sycophant and paying only attention to the people above you. That's
Yeah.
and what they want. That's not cool. I mean, it feels good. You feel like you're achieving a lot, but at what cost?
Unfortunately, in some organizations, what happens is those people are rewarded and promoted just because they serve their leadership chain, and if they are delivering no matter what, right, at what cost,
Mm-hmm.
then they are rewarded for that.
Yeah. Well, in the states here, we're known as a pretty litigious society. There's a lot of lawsuits going on, and honestly, this is the one area where I think it is helpful that HR departments and corporate leaders are recognizing that having those people, even as good as they are in delivering, is really putting the organization at risk legally because people don't want to work in a toxic environment.
Yeah.
That is, that, and first of all, and honestly, you cannot be creative. You cannot inspire people when you are beating them up. It doesn't work. When
Agreed.
people are afraid, they cannot be inspired. They cannot create. Fear does not create.
Yeah, and I think nowadays with Gen Z, Gen X, they
Don't
don't really
tolerate it.
yield to authority, and it just doesn't work.
We tried, so I'm a bit older. I'm considered Generation Jones, which is in between X and Boomer. And I and we tried to have that balance. We
Yeah.
tried to push back, but we just weren't as good at it. So I love that the younger generations are doing this. It is exactly the right thing to do.
Yeah. So let's talk about the hidden expectations no one warns you about. Like, what would be the number one, top one that you see?
So first of all, this is what happens when people are promoted into new jobs.
Yeah.
And on one hand, they think nothing's going to change. I'm just still my great self. My team's still going to love me. We're still going to have this great relationship. Um, Nothing's really going to change. It's just my title has changed. I'm still the same person. No. So once you're promoted, people start seeing you through the lens of your title. So you have to recognize that even people who have worked with you a really long time are going to have these hidden expectations, these beliefs about what you should be able to do and what you can do, what you're capable of. Um, and I think one of the most common ones is recognizing that you now, or not recognizing now, that you have a new team you're working with. So new leaders, they look at the people below them as their team. But in reality, those people I call a squad. That's your squad. Your new team are your peers and your boss, and really mostly your peers. That is your team now. You are part of a new team. And that's going to shift things in you and how you view challenges, priorities, trust, and loyalty. All of that is going to shift somewhat. So, for example, if one of your team members tells you that your squad did something that doesn't sit well with their squad, your job is not to react and get defensive of your squad. Your job now is to listen to your teammate, get all the details, and investigate. And possibly change behavior on your squad and apologize. Because you have a new team. But a lot of people still are once they're promoted, they're still aligned with those people who report to them. And that's
Yeah.
their team.
I've seen, so the thing is with what you describe, I mean, it depends on the structure. What I've seen, I mean, it depends on the structure of the company. So how much collaboration there are between the different managers. So let's say you're a manager and you have peers that managing other teams. And you're saying, oh, this is your new team. I've seen many times that there are a bunch of people reporting to the same manager, but they
Right.
don't have a lot of overlap. And
Right.
that will make it harder for you to treat them as team members rather than just peers that report to the same manager, and maybe there are some potential collaborations.
Right. Right. And no, you're correct. I mean, sometimes it is just these individuals reporting to the same person, and it's difficult to envision those people as part of your team in a traditional sense. Like in a sports team, it's definitely not going to follow that kind of model unless you think about it in terms of, let's say, maybe a tennis team, a group of tennis players at high school or college who play their individual games, their individual matches, and still it's the cumulative score or number of matches won that is attributed to the entire team. So I think framing it that way can help. I also think it is one of the hidden metrics that people forget about or don't notice is that having relationships, stronger relationships with these people at the peer level is what is going to keep you successful long term. You are going to learn from them. You're going to learn how your piece of the puzzle fits into the whole, even if there aren't any touch points along the way. Your job in this role is to begin to create these relationships. So as you move up in the organization, those relationships stay strong and they deepen along the way.
Very much agree.
Yeah, leaders, as you go up in the organization, they lead through relationships, not through doing the work.
Yeah, and you mentioned not just doing your work, which kind of leads to my next question. I mean, this shift from executor to a leader is hard.
Yeah.
And what I see a lot is that, and you wrote also in your book about it, like being the hero. It's about taking everything on yourself, still doing like the hands-on, like the execution, a lot of the stuff, and not letting go, and not delegating enough, not protecting your time enough.
Yeah.
Why is it so hard?
Well, we get these dopamine hits. We feel so good about ourselves when we save the day. I mean, my gosh, that feels great. And you may be the most experienced person. You have that depth of knowledge and maybe hopefully some wisdom that will help you solve that problem. But that's a short-term fix. That's not developing your team. That's not helping them learn how to solve future problems that are similar. Um, it is hard to let go of it. Once, but it is possible. I write about one client in particular who I spoke with his team once I started coaching him, and I spoke with the team together in a meeting rather than individually. And they all told me how their boss, who was not present at the time, was just way too involved in the day to day. He was answering all the questions. Nobody else got a chance to shine or contribute, even. They couldn't work through the problems because he already had an answer. So I went back and I shared this feedback with him, and he really took it seriously. And so he stopped going to some of these meetings. He started paying attention to his time, where he was really investing his energy. And he was expecting his team to start solving the problems. And so I went back to the team about 6 weeks later and I was like, how are things, what's happening? What's going on? And they were like, change him back, change him back. We need him again. I was laughing. I was like, no, sorry, you asked for it. This is what you're getting. So,
Yeah, maybe it was hard for him to balance because it's like not all of, we don't want leaders who are completely detached.
mhm,
I
right.
guess you need to balance.
Yeah, he did. He did. And we found a way for that to happen. But it was just kind of funny because, I never had a team actually tell me, oh, geez, too much. He's gone too far that side. So, yeah, but it's hard to do. Sometimes I had another client who he had this just amazing direct report. She was brilliant, really, really good. And he knew she was brilliant. So he was spending all this time with her. And he thought he was developing her, but she felt like she was being micromanaged. So, so she gave me permission to tell him that. So I said, why don't you just, take small steps? Feel free to, just take small steps with her. You don't need to completely abandon her or anything like that. And we didn't coach for a couple of weeks. And then when I got, coached him next, he goes, oh, you won't believe what I did. I'm like, oh, what did you do? What did you do? He said that he deliberately skipped a meeting with the CEO and he sent her in his place. And instead, he walked the parking lot up and down while the meeting was going. He was so nervous. And it turns out she was brilliant and she had the leadership team laughing. I mean that's amazing that you're confident enough to get these people to chuckle and to laugh at something. They loved her. So he was thrilled to death. I was like, we were talking about small steps. So
Wow.
I talked to her later and she was like, I didn't know why you did that. I was really questioning. I wondered if there was some sort of trick. And I'm like, no, no. I think we need to work on trust here. So, but yeah, so you can either take the big step or you can take small steps and give your team the responsibility and the authority to make decisions, to speak for others, to represent. You can do that in small steps or big way.
Yeah, I think that taking yourself out of meetings is a good step, and it's not always easy. And a lot of times I tell my clients, and that's kind of lead me to the next topic I wanted to talk to you about, that if they want to be strategic, they have to step a little bit away from the day to day. And one way to do it is to really exclude themselves from places where they don't have to be. And this is hard, right? I mean, because managers have a lot of meetings
Yeah.
and they're invited to a lot of meetings. They don't necessarily have to accept all of them. And it's a lot of times it's very difficult to say, yeah, I'm not sure I will, I'm needed in that meeting, so I'll just exclude myself and handle it without me.
It is tough. And because at heart, I really do think that leaders want to help. You know, they want to contribute in the way that they have in the past, but that doesn't serve them or the team so much anymore. And it's managers, but it's also senior leaders. This year, I've been coaching a chief strategic officer who has his mental load and the amount of time that he has been spending in unnecessary meetings has just been eating away at his effectiveness. So I really challenged him to take a look at his calendar, and luckily he has a chief of staff and an executive assistant. So together they were both able to, or they were able, the three of them, to figure out where he really needs to spend his time.
Yeah.
And most leaders don't have that kind of support. So it falls to the individual leader to just be rigorous. What am I contributing here? What do they really need from me in this meeting? Do I have to be the decision maker? Can someone else take on that piece?
Definitely.
And yeah, and that will, that will help as you reduce your time. And in fact, or reduce your time in meetings. And I also jumped to this idea that a leader has to set aside time for themselves. So in addition to all the other hidden expectations, they need to be thinking more than doing. And that means really spending quiet time. You know, it might be 15 minutes at your desk thinking about your squad. What do they really need? And maybe it's another 15 minutes thinking about what your team, your peer group needs, and so on. Just a few minutes a day can make a huge difference to really look forward and big picture. And so when people talk about, well, what is strategy? That's how I look at it. It's taking that high level, long-term view that is going to help you and your people, the people around you. That is being strategic. It's not about what needs to be done today.
Exactly. And I think what you mentioned, like, the challenge is, first of all, no one tells you what it means to be strategic. They just tell you need to be strategic.
I know.
And for me as well, that was a problem I had. And the thing is, like you mentioned, like, you cannot be strategic if you're constantly busy with today. And most leaders are busy with the day-to-day, are very, in a way, in a very reactive mode. Meetings and reacting to different requests, to different questions, that they don't have the space, both the actual time and the mental space, to really sit, as you mentioned, and think.
Right. Exactly. Years ago, a friend of mine was an electrical engineer, and he was telling me one day he was in his office and he was leaning back, he had his feet up on his desk, and he was just thinking. And I'm like, what? You were just doing that? He said, yeah, my boss walked by. And I'm like, what did he say? And he said, oh, our stock price is going to go up. Obviously, Dave is thinking of these great things. This is fantastic. But he was doing exactly what he was supposed to do. He was thinking, spending time just thinking about what could be instead of just doing what is right in front of him. So you stop.
Yeah, and I wonder how many leaders will look at someone sitting down and thinking and say, "Oh, it's a good
Yeah.
thing versus, oh my God, this person is not working, is sitting
Right.
dreaming.
Yeah, exactly. You need some more work? I can give you some.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but that once you get on that leadership track, spending and again, you don't have to spend like an entire day or an afternoon thinking through this. I mean, if your schedule allows it, that's great. But just chunks of time can help.
Yeah. So, Nora, before we end today, kind of, if a woman is watching us today and she just got promoted and she feels completely overwhelmed, what's one thing that you would tell her to think about?
Well, there's one thing I would tell her to do first, and that is to
Okay.
get outside. Just go outside, touch grass, just whatever, go to a playground, sit on a swing. Just go be outside. Um, Breathe the air, just be. Inevitably, when you're outside, you're not going to worry. And even 20 minutes of being outside can reset your nervous system. So if you're feeling that overwhelm, it's really good to just ground yourself that way. Then, what I would say is go back in, get yourself a nice cup of tea, and really think about what you want your leadership to be known for. What is really important to you? And then you can think about everybody else, your boss's needs and your direct reports needs and your peers' needs and the market needs. You can think about all that, but you need to be first.
Love that. You need to be first. Perfect. So, Nora, before we end, tell our listeners where they can find you.
You can find the book on Amazon.com. You can find me at www.mnorabouchard.com. That's MNORABOUCHARD.com. And you can learn about me, my coaching, my facilitation, the presentations and speeches that I give, some of the tools that I use, and great podcasts like this that I'm a guest on.
Thank you so much, Nora. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Lemore. I really appreciate it.